Grand evening to you. Looks like the camera's a little bit crooked, huh? Oh. Try that. That's a little better. Well, grand evening. It is a beautiful evening right here. It's the mountains of North Carolina. We have just had a thunderstorm. And everything smells clean and fresh. Got our cucumbers growing over here in this corner. We don't get much sunlight. I mean, it's sunny outside, but we are surrounded by trees, so we don't have a whole lot of sunlight right here to grow vegetables that we want at this house. So a couple of things we have right here, then we have co-op for the rest of them. What's on the agenda? Well, a couple things. I wanted to talk about how to love one woman. You know, you see there's so much stuff out there today about promiscuity. It's in every single movie, okay? And it's inescapable. You know, if you watch TV and movies and whatnot, which we really don't, but it's everywhere. And not only is it everywhere, it's become not only socially acceptable, but expected. It's become expected for couples to live together prior to marriage. It's been expected for couples to have intercourse prior to marriage. And I'm not coming from a holier than thou perspective on this, you understand? But it's not just one person. It's expected that one person might be dating 3 or 4 people at the same time. Now that is something that is is a recent phenomenon that it was so widespread. I can't abide that. What we're going to talk about here is how to love one woman. You know, when you get married, there's so many people that just want to jump the fence. Number one, the biggest thing is that if you don't have, in my opinion, if you don't have Christ in your life, it's much more difficult to handle the things that come up in marriage, right? If you don't have that help, you know, here's a real statistic for you. Amongst, what is the divorce rate right now? Like, even amongst Protestants, it's close to 50%, and for Protestants, and if you're not in any church whatsoever, it's like over 50%, maybe 55% divorce rate. For devout Catholics, the divorce rate is like 5%. 5%, okay? Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that being a Protestant is bad for you and all that stuff. That's not the point. The point is that having a faith, having faith that is real, having faith that brings you, that can bring you and your spouse closer together. I'm going to start off there because that's the most important thing. Okay, I probably should have left that for last, but just go ahead and stick around, and we got some important things to talk about. As men, when you have any amount of money whatsoever, and you are providing a stable home for a family, even if you don't have kids yet, even if you're just been married or whatever, and other women find out about that, you automatically become more attractive in their eyes. Okay, and what tends to happen is that they'll start daydreaming a little bit. Now, I'm not saying all women, okay? That's not the point. Don't attack me on that. I'm not talking about every woman. I'm talking about there are women out there that will do this. They will target you, and especially if you're a total package, they'll target you, and then they will end up trying to manipulate you because they want what your wife has, basically. This exists out there, and for you young gentlemen that are just married, just be on the lookout. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. They'll target you, and they'll try to manipulate you to get what she has. Okay. The best thing that any of us can do is avoid the situations. As Catholics, we say we strive to avoid sin and to avoid the near occasion of sin. What does that mean? That means if you know that there's sin in that bar room, don't go in that bar room, especially without your wife. If I have to go out of town on business, which is rare these days, but I used to have to go out of town, I would make it a point to not go to bars and what have you, because that type of thing exists in there. Okay, we'd go out to dinner, have a couple glasses of wine, something like that, and not saying I'd be a total prude, but I'm not staying out all night long. You know, my wife and I don't do that anyway. But those days are gone. Okay, when you get married, you have a responsibility to her, and so these ideas of these guys out here. Let's take Andrew Tate for example, who's going to sit here and tell you that the definition of masculinity is being able to have multiple women and be able to impregnate multiple women and be able to have children impregnate and have children with multiple women and just have your pick. And they should just all be fine with it, okay? Because you're such a pimp and you're such a player that no matter what goes on, they should all just be cool with that. Let me tell you something. No good God-fearing woman is going to just be cool with that, okay? It is not difficult to stay with one woman. I've been married for 16 years, and I'm not saying that marriage is easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it requires sacrifice. And the sooner you come to grips with that, then the easier it's going to be for you. If you can't bring it upon yourself to sacrifice for your wife, then do not get married. If you don't love that woman enough to do what you need to do, to be respectful, to be kind, and to be a good husband to her and a good provider, then do not get married. I'm not saying that when you get married, you have to be ready to have kids. It was 2 years before my wife and I got pregnant with Isabella. You don't have to be ready for everything. And let me tell you something. If you're waiting until you're ready, you're never going to get there. Nobody's ready to have kids. I mean, it just, when it happens, it's it's a blessing. If you're waiting until you're ready, people are very, especially men, want to have all their ducks in a row and stuff like that. And I get it. I do. I understand that aspect of it. You want to be financially secure before you start bringing kids in the world. That's great. I find that admirable. Let me tell you something. If you have a job and you're working for somebody else, you're already at risk, right? Unless you have a big nest egg or whatever, if it's in stocks, you're already at risk. There's all kinds of things that are risky out there. It's all risky, my brother. It's all risky. You might, I like what Jim Rohn said. He said it's so risky that you ain't getting out of here alive. Okay, I like that. You're not getting out alive, so you might as well just go ahead and enjoy the ride. Now, I'm not saying if you and your wife are scumbags and broke to bring more kids into the world, but I think if you were that, you wouldn't be. And I'm not saying broke people are scumbags. I'm just saying, like druggies or whatever. You know, don't breed. But but if you're good people and you want to provide for a family, and you just, if you're normal, you just want to provide for a family, then you know, don't wait. God provides. Okay, have a little faith. The Lord will provide for you. If you don't believe that, then perhaps you're on the wrong channel, or you can stick around and maybe I can persuade you to believe it. But the Lord, as Jesus said, God provides for the birds of the air. And so how much more is he going to provide for you? Now, one special thing about those birds of the air, they don't wake up in the morning when that sun comes up and they start to chirp, like you probably hear right now. They don't just wake up in the morning and their nest is full of food. They have to go out and get it, right? But God gave you the ability to do that. God gave you skills. He gave you strength. It's a guy's name, Nick, something or other. The guy that doesn't have any arms and any legs. I forget his name. Good guy. If anybody ever had an excuse to not provide and to not do things with his life, it's him. But he didn't sit there and just feel sorry for himself. And I don't know his whole story. But at the end of the day, he ended up becoming very inspiring to millions of people. Your wife expects you to provide, and you need to provide. Your family expects you to provide. Nobody here in our group has a wife that says that when you wake up in the morning that she wants you to go be a loser. That's not why she married you. She didn't marry you to be candy ass, to not take risks. We have to provide. We have to take risks to provide. You have to put ourselves out there a little bit, So I would encourage you, if you're a young man watching this, to embrace what it is to be a man, which is embrace the sacrifice. You'll hear guys say, embrace the suck. Sacrifice is not suck, or at least it doesn't have to be all the time, right? It is something that is fulfilling, because as men, believe it or not, as men, we take a certain amount of pride in how much we give up, and it's a healthy pride, a pride in how much we give up when we see the result of what we've done. So when do we see the result in our children, for example? So let's say we sacrifice to put them in good schools, or for certain coaching lessons or whatever the case is, and they improve in that and they grow as a person. When we see that as fathers, it makes us feel good because we sacrificed, but it yielded something. We planted a seed, and it grew. You see. Anyway, to love one woman, it takes sacrifice, and it's going to take sacrifice on her part. We sacrifice against sometimes we would say our nature, but we don't give in to our base nature. That's not what men do. Men say, hey, that's my wife, and I'm going to stick with her. That's the one I chose. She's a good woman, and that's the one that I'm going to keep. And that's it. You know? If you're not married yet, I would advise you smoking Captain Black Royal tobacco if you're interested. If you're not married yet, I would advise you to find a woman that has the same belief system that you do. Especially if you're Catholic. But you need to be the head of the household. You need to lead the family in the family spirituality. I'll give you another statistic here. What we find is when men lead the house in faith, okay? When men lead the house in faith, the children continue in the faith after high school 75% of the time. Now, this is a Catholic statistic. So when the father takes the reins in the home, the children stay with the faith 75% of the time. It's probably a general Christian statistic if you really think about it. When the mother takes the reins in the faith in the home, and she's the one that's doing everything and taking the kids to church and all that stuff on Sunday, the children remain in church 13% of the time. Why is that? It's because when the father takes it seriously, it's important. When he doesn't take it seriously, kids don't take it seriously. It's not important to the dad in the family. It's not going to be important to the children. We have a big, big responsibility when it comes to this, right? Makes you think, I tend to think a little bit better when I have my pipe. That's why I make videos on my pipe. And if you don't like me smoking my pipe during the video, well, I'm going to do it. When we get to heaven, or when we get judged, let's say that, the Lord's going to look at you and make a determination of whether or not you were bearing fruit for the kingdom. One of the best ways to bear fruit for the kingdom is your kids. You take the reins and bring them to church. You be the head of the household that God intended you to be. And you be the leader in your home that is going to show your son how to treat a woman and how to love a woman. And you're going to show your daughter what a man looks like so she can know how to choose one properly. Okay? I'm going to leave you with that. God bless you.